we are on the scene today.
Hello, everybody. What's up? Welcome. Can you hear us? Can you see us? Audio, visual, are we here? Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's AMA. I'm very excited to be kicking this off. We recently launched our Reddit Ads courses at AdConversion, taught by the maestro, Kris here. And Kris was kind enough to host this AMA with me and help answer questions around Reddit. We're definitely seeing an uptick in this channel in terms of demand. There's more and more people who are reporting success publicly with Reddit on LinkedIn. So it's really exciting times. So Kris, why don't you just kick us off with a quick background on yourself for everyone that's joining in and not familiar with you?
Yes, so hi everybody. Thank you for having me here today. I hope my mic is okay. So I'm Kris. Currently, I'm a senior performance marketing manager at AdConversion, but my journey with Reddit ads started over 2 years ago, like in early 2023, back when I was working at Cognizant. So the general idea from like Reddit ads perspective was that we've heard from Refine Labs guys that it's working. They had their own small 2-3 pages playbook. And as every marketer, we like to test stuff. So we thought like, why don't we give it a shot with a small budget? So that's how it started. But as we've seen more and more success, we started investing significant amount of money into Reddit ads.
Nice. And we are going to dive deep. So I've got a whole bunch of questions here for Kris, but everyone that's joining live, if you have questions that you want Kris to answer, just feel free to drop them in the comments and I can add them up here in the queue. So we're going to dive into a few different categories. Number one is going to be scaling and strategy, really kind of getting a good context on, how to think about this platform and how it fits into the greater ecosystem. We're going to talk about budget and performance and the intricacies of that and what it looks like on Reddit. We're going to talk about targeting and audiences. I think this is probably the most common questions asked is around targeting for Reddit. We're going to talk about creative and offers. What does that look like for this platform? Optimization, and then some core insights that you've got on your journey here, Kris, and kind of what you think of the future of this channel. So we've got quite a bit to cover, and I am going to try to not rant so we can be on time. So let's kick off with the first question here around scaling and strategy, and just really kick off with the big picture on Reddit. So my question to you, Kris, is what made Reddit the right channel for you in terms of actually being able to scale to 6 figures in ad spend? What had to go right?
So in order to go from small budget to big budget, of course, you need to have some kind of initial success in there. So it all comes down to having ICPs that are either in the market or you can serve with top of the funnel ads in order to convert them later. Because at the end of the day, even if you have amazing awareness channel, if you have no quantifiable data to prove it, then you won't get buy-in in order to double down and scale more. So in terms of Reddit ads, I was lucky enough to work at Cognizant, which was targeting sales persona and marketing persona, which have quite big communities on Reddit. What it means is that like, even when you browse these communities, you can definitely say, my ICP is in there. So that was the initial kind of targeting that we were doing. And because, in fact, our ICP was in there, we started getting some leads here and there. And if you get leads here and there with small budget, that gives you confidence that if you put more money towards it, you should get a better, more outcome out of it.
Question on that, just a quick follow-up for people that are looking to get early traction on Reddit. You mentioned you launched a small budget, quick pilot, and you got some leads from it. Two things that I'm genuinely curious about. One is, how much budget are we talking about? Like, how would you quantify a starting budget just to, get some proof of concept? And then second, what was the offer for you that actually was able to convert on Reddit?
Okay, so let's start with budget. So I know that for some people it still will seem like a big budget, especially if you are starting out for a small company. So we started with roughly $2,000 a month budget. So for me, considering that I was managing seven figures budget back then, it feels like a small budget. And I'd say that it's a good starting out budget. Reddit allows you to start with as little as $5 a day. But realistically, I'd say that if you aim for KPI, let's say MQL or opportunities or close ones, I'd say that depending on your KPI, I would recommend to starting with 3 to 5x of your average cost per KPI on other platforms. So in our case, it was 3 to 5x of the cost per MQL before we decide whether the platform works or not. We are aiming for pipeline at Cognizant, but considering the longer sales cycles for enterprise deals, MQLs was a good early indicator that it makes sense to actually scale up with Reddit ads. And then what was the second question?
The offer itself, what were you promoting with these ads that got people to convert into leads?
So back when we started, it was best performing ads on LinkedIn. We are doing mostly top of the funnel awareness stuff. So we got quite lucky that it worked. But based on what I learned in the initial few months, I found that if you have big enough community on Reddit, it makes sense to start from get-go with the conversion objective. We tested it in early days of Reddit ads, and we found that if you target big community, even with like no algorithm track record of what works and what doesn't, if you start to cold audience with conversion objective, initially you get some early wins and early conversions, especially comparing to the brand awareness campaign objective, which doesn't make sense because when you think about it, comparing to other platforms, Algo needs data to see what works in order to serve it to people that will convert. That was not the case with Reddit. I got initial success, not only at Cognizant, with multiple accounts going from the get-go with the conversion objective. However, the issue is that your initial success will dry out quite quickly. So you have to support that conversion objective later on with some top of the funnel ads anyways.
Yep, that makes sense, which is a good segue to our second question here, which is what type of products or offers do best on Reddit compared to something like Meta or Google?
I know that B2C folks that are watching this won't agree with me, but I'd say that if you are promoting product that has high ACV, it's the best in terms of performance, because then you just need one or two close won opportunities to make 2x, 3x ROAS. Compared to like small deals, you need to have bigger volume of MQLs and lower cost per MQL in order to get positive ROAS later down the funnel. Yes, at Cognizant, we had crazy pipeline ROI, and ROAS was definitely on a higher end of what you would expect to see in B2B SaaS. But to keep it real, if you close 3 enterprise deals, your ROAS would be healthy anyways.
So I think the thing I'm taking away, and correct me if I'm wrong, is there's a place for Reddit if you're up market going after enterprise brands, but there's also a place for SMB brands as well, right? If they're doing like a product-led motion or free trial motion, or am I wrong? And they're actually not going to find as much success compared to this enterprise approach.
Yes, so like when you think about, especially if you are new or you've seen one or two of my posts, you would think that Reddit works only for enterprise companies. There's plenty of B2C companies that make amazing ROI, even though they have low product price. And I even have a client or two right now that are SMBs, targeting SMBs with low ARR or ACV, and they can still make positive ROAS. So later on, it comes down to testing different communities to see which one has better profitability. Like an example of Cognizant, I tested initially 3 communities, and I found that one of them is amazing for getting enterprise deals. Even though pixel data and CRM data shows that you get MQLs from other community, when you start listening to the sales calls, you learn that these are SMBs. So that's why it's important to actually start testing different communities, because purely based on what I learned at Cognizant, if I had to like jump in straight away to another company to do Reddit ads targeting the same ICPs, I know that this specific community brings you specifically SMB sales leads compared to other
Yeah.
communities in the enterprise. But I wouldn't learn that if I didn't start testing it.
And so it sounds like there's a place for everyone, whether you're sales led, product led, high end of the market, lower end of the market. It's really just a matter of like really understanding which are the communities that are going to work for you and the kind of people that hang out in those communities. I am more curious though around the offer piece. So just to define offer for everyone listening, what's on the other side of the ad? So when somebody clicks on your ad, what's in it for them? What are they signing up for, or what are they getting access to? Is there anything that you saw around that for context? Like you mentioned you launched a small pilot and you were actually able to get signups. Like what did those people sign up to? And have you tested anything around signups? Like, does demo work? You know, like I'm sure people watching right now, they're like, you know, foaming at the mouth to launch a demo ad to a community. Does that work, or is it too much, or is it better to do a free trial product, or is it better to do a content offer? Curious your thoughts on that.
So usually when I run Reddit ads, we aim for MQLs, not for leads that later down might become MQLs or opportunity if you nurture them for like 16, 18 weeks. Usually I aim for MQLs or trial starts straight away. So like not only SLG approach of let's get as many MQLs that lead to opportunity, but I also tried it for PLG, where you want trial started to trial upgraded, or paying aka paying workspaces. And I found that it also can work. So in terms of offers for PLG, it's usually this is what we do, we are cool, learn more because it doesn't cost you anything. And there is not a huge disassociation between what you do for top of the funnel versus bottom of the funnel then, because at the end of the day, it's still low commitment for them. They can just sign up. Sometimes there is no credit card details required. However, when you think about it from like, especially from SLG point of view, I tried book a demo from the get-go, and as I said, initially it works. I have a theory
That's
that it
interesting.
works
Yeah.
because initially, if nobody else is advertising on Reddit, if people start seeing your ads in the market to buy stuff, then they will buy it from you because your ad appeared. So they were in the market. That's why I think
Got it.
theory.
Okay.
Later on, I considering that 5% of people are in the market to purchase, book a demo to cold audience is not the best move. I would still run conversion objective campaigns, but I would focus more on landing pages and offers, talking about problem or product. So like the basic marketing 101, discuss to make people problem aware or product aware. This is the enemy, this is how you can solve it.
Right.
What you struggle with, and we are perfect to help you fix it. And then landing page has to also reflect it. The issue with Reddit is that you have short ad copy. However, on the other side, you can be so much more creative with ads that you are serving. So memes before and after, etc. Just to get to the bottom of this is what we do, this is what we can help. I know of someone who was trying to be serving only meme ads without the clear association of problem solution, problem product solution, and it didn't work out from them. 0 leads over the extended period of time. So there has to be clear messaging of this is what we do.
Yep, makes perfect sense. All right, so for everyone joining in, if you have questions, drop them in the chat. We can line them up. We are unpacking Kris's journey of scaling Reddit to 6 figures. So Kris, we've got the next one lined up for you here. At what point in your paid media strategy did Reddit become a core channel? Was it always, or did it evolve?
It evolved. So in B2B SaaS in general, you have 2 big channels, LinkedIn and Google. That's a bread and butter for everybody. And then once they master it out, they start thinking of other channels. So I wouldn't say that it's a core channel per se. You probably don't have it as a primary or even secondary channel. Once you make the most out of them or want to test out with small budget, you'll start doing it on Reddit. But in my case, you just follow the numbers. If I can see that Reddit has similar or better ROAS compared to LinkedIn, then a logical approach would be to actually start investing more money in there. And then you cannot conclude it from the get-go. So it always starts from small test across like new client to see whether we can actually have data to back up that it's work. Because at the end of the day, I'm preaching that Reddit is amazing. I've seen success with it. So when you think about it, I'm a bit biased that yes, Reddit will work for you. But then yes, we need to gather the data to see whether it actually makes sense to reallocate some budget, because it's never let's print some more money. It's always let's take away money from somewhere else in order to bring it to Reddit. So you need data to back it up that actually it performs better than what you want to take money from.
Yep. So we kind of touched on this, but just to succinct it and make it like nice and clear for everyone, the next question here is on your beginning piece of getting started. So how did you decide where to start on Reddit? Did you begin with specific subreddits or broad interest targeting or some other combination of things?
We started with subreddits back then because we found some subreddits that just when you look at them, they were like, oh my God, that's perfect. That's where my ICP is. Especially like B2B SaaS sales are getting more and more popular. We have thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people in North America doing it. So when we saw sales subreddit where someone talks about like AEs and like comp issues and stuff, we thought that this is perfect. So that was our good starting point. And it's lucky because if you've seen my course, you'll know that community targeting is way superior to interest targeting. So if we invested everything into interest targeting, we wouldn't be having that conversation right now, because 2 months into running Reddit ads, I would conclude that it doesn't work because my ICP doesn't come to the website to convert. But it's because we started from community targeting, we were successful. And in terms of communities that we chose, initially we've chosen communities based on a simple search and Reddit search bar, typing in sales, typing in B2B marketing, and then actually seeing if that communities are relevant to us.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And when you think about Reddit in terms of your overall paid media strategy, does Reddit have a place across the entire, buyer's journey, or is it just stronger in certain areas?
Depending how do you define the whole journey, because if you cut it off like at MQL, I think it fits perfectly across the whole journey, because what ends up happening is you have top of the funnel awareness. And that's actually quite cool that Reddit has a lot of unduplicated reach. 43% of, I've seen some data that 43% of Reddit B2B decision makers are not on LinkedIn. So depending on the industry, it might be more or less, but that tells you that if you start serving them top of the funnel content, that's where the actual brand awareness will happen. And then later on, you can convert them. So you have top of the funnel and unduplicated reach. It's way cheaper compared to other platforms to serve it. Then conversion. You can be more creative with ads, because what wouldn't be appropriate for LinkedIn will definitely be appropriate on Reddit if you go with memes and fan ads. And on top of that, as distribution costs are cheaper, you can also serve much more of the ads for similar budget on other platforms. And then later on, once they become the elite, it's quite tricky for B2B because Reddit targeting is still quite clunky. What you can do is community interest targeting or some basic retargeting. They recently integrated with metadata. So that's something I would love to test out. But I did have a chance to test it out, and I'm sure it's still in beta.
If I had to guess, just based on my past experience, it's most likely contact-based targeting. It's just similar to what happens with Meta when you use metadata, Clearbit, SafePrimer, all these tools. They're basically just aggregating contacts for you and then uploading those contacts into the platform. So then you can target based on contacts, right? We've got actually a perfect segue in terms of a question, which is on this vein here from Parul, which I'll put up here on the board, which is, what are your thoughts about community targeting versus keyword targeting? Would you target both in a single campaign or ad group?
Hi, Parul. Thank you for the question. So the first part, community targeting versus keyword targeting. From my experience, keyword targeting can be hit or miss, or it can work to some extent and then stop working. So I would definitely recommend testing it out, but I would split it separately compared to community targeting, because this way you can actually figure out if keyword targeting brought you revenue or not. If you merge everything together, you won't have that granular insight. And then following up on keyword targeting, I would definitely recommend you splitting it up as well for competitive versus non-brand keywords, because then you can be quite creative with your copy. You don't have to be like, we do this. You can be like, my features are this, and this, and mention a feature that your competitor doesn't have. Or you can even get a bit hostile and say, I'm better than XYZ. You won't be able to do it if you have multiple competitors blended together. And then, yes, I wouldn't target both in a single campaign, because granular insight and copy being appropriate, if I can split them.
The second question here from Parul was, what types of videos would you recommend on Reddit, if you would?
Yes, I would recommend. So there's the way you can think about it, especially like in terms of like holistic paid media approach. So there's a few types of videos. So social proof definitely for retargeting, because you'll help to nudge people actually converting. So people talking to the camera, some case studies, some impact, like even animated videos showing that this company reached this. Then you have product videos where you have product walkthroughs, people talking about, if you struggle with XYZ, we can help you. You gotta get really creative with that. But what I found works amazingly on Reddit, and not only on Reddit, is also UGC videos. Not only social proof, but also product marketing. In general, you'd be surprised that pixelated, echo in the background UGC video, someone talking to the camera, actually those videos have amazing engagement, even though the quality is not as great as you would want. And I think that the reason behind it is that at the end of the day, it's real people and it feels natural. And then you can go crazy with those UGC videos. You can create social proof, product walkthrough, even basic problem marketing. If you struggle with XYZ, this company can help you by doing this and by fixing this and this problem. So those are the general videos. So product marketing, social proof. I played a bit with promoting content. So let's say if I wanted to bring people to my course, I would make a snippet from this webinar and run it in B2B marketing community with landing page being sign up. Maybe at the end, though, I would make a small amendment. After this segment, I would do sign up below. Like, thank you for watching, sign up below, with a clear call to action in order to stack odds in my favor. And yes, for remarketing, you can be more direct with, this is what we do, let's book a demo, because they already know who you are.
That makes perfect sense. So we got another question here. The question is from Mark. He says, our target market is CTOs, CIOs. I'll put it up here on the screen. Companies that are using Microsoft. What are your thoughts on targeting them through Reddit? Nice little use case here.
Companies that are using Microsoft would be a bit tricky if we are talking about Microsoft in general, because Microsoft Suite is massive. So like, are we talking about email signature for the whole company, or are we talking about Microsoft PowerPoint or like Power BI? So based on that, there's like multiple different approaches. So CTOs and CIOs in general, you can definitely do it. You can target communities in which they would be in. If we are talking about specific products by Microsoft, then I would target subreddits that talk about these products, or I would be using specific keyword targeting. The issue with that approach is that you cannot pick and choose seniority of people that will see your ads and convert. So you might have some junior people or even up and coming programmers converting to your product. But at the end of the day, if your ICP is in there, you should get some conversions from there. So you can just ignore the students and non-ICP people that convert from Reddit.
I think one thing I'll add on that point as well that I see B2B brands struggle with, and I think this is kind of the curse of LinkedIn, where we're so used to LinkedIn targeting where we expand outside of this platform. And, of course, our lead to MQL rates as a quality metric or lead to SQL, whatever the case might be, isn't as high as LinkedIn, because with LinkedIn, you can target not just the individual, but also the seniority of the individual and the company, right? And a multitude of other factors. So when you're running ads on Reddit or YouTube or X or, any other platform that's not LinkedIn, Meta, keep in mind the percentage of your lead to MQL rate, keep an eye on it, but just don't expect it to be as high as LinkedIn. And then really it just becomes like a math equation. So for context, if 60% of the leads you come in are actually MQLs, 40% aren't, just given the fact that the cost to generate those MQLs is so much lower on Reddit, given the distribution costs, the math actually adds up in your favor where it's worth it, right? So that's just one thing to keep in mind. Mark just gave some additional context for you, Kris. He said using Microsoft SQL servers, and the ICP is CTO and CIOs.
So again, touching on ICP, if we know that 70% of the market is using Microsoft SQL servers, then I would go straight away for targeting ICPs. And as Silvio mentioned, some of the leads you'll get won't be your ICP because they don't use Microsoft SQL servers. But then it's just calculating whether you can actually make profit of leads that actually uses Microsoft SQL Server. So that's the number one approach. But if we know that not a huge percentage of the market is using Microsoft SQL servers, and we don't target SQL servers users of other providers, then I would aim for keyword targeting where the conversation appears. Again, you might have some junior people or even self-taught programmers talking about it. So then you can start excluding communities. That's also powerful to exclude communities in order to prevent non-ICPs to show. But at the end of the day, it will still come down to volume gain. If you target keyword targeting and you have enough volume, you'll get some conversions. And out of those conversions, some of them might not be your ICPs. But because it's so much cheaper, ICPs that come in will get lower cost per lead compared to other platforms.
Awesome. Let's talk about budget and performance. So Reddit is often seen as a cheap but risky platform. What benchmarks or signals kind of gave you the confidence that, hey, it was worth scaling budget? And you kind of touched on this earlier, but just to unpack it for folks.
So back in the days, the only Reddit ads for B2B resource I've seen said that your average click-through rate should be around 0.25%, which is quite disappointing because if you start testing with different ad creatives, messaging angles, etc., or purely by going with best performing assets on other platforms, you can achieve it just like that. Like within 3 months of testing stuff on Reddit, I was consistently above 0.4% click-through rate. Which also touching on that, it's quite crazy. I have a client right now that is using really basic, really boring ad. It wouldn't fly anywhere else on any other platform. But because we found crazy relevant community, they have 1% click-through rate. Like literally the image is just their logo. And yet we get 1% click-through rate because it's super, super relevant to the community. What was the second part of the question? Indicators, okay.
Yep.
Again, at the end of the day, we wanted conversions. So if conversions wouldn't happen, no matter how I pitch it or present it, if I don't have tangible proof showing that platform gets us results we want, we wouldn't be doubling down on it. We were in a really fortunate situation that we were using attribution platform. So because of that, we weren't relying only on last touch conversion, because also for anybody who haven't seen my course, I've seen that probably over 80% of traffic coming in from Reddit will be mobile, but also I found that only around 1/3 of the conversions happens by direct conversions. So some people will see the ad, click on it, and then convert 3 weeks later from Google Ads or 2 months later from LinkedIn Ads. So because of that, I wouldn't heavily focus on last touch attribution, because Reddit ads help you with other platforms. Because we had multi-attribution software, we could track every single person that clicked on Reddit ads and then converted from other sources, which helped me to see how complex the journey is and where Reddit plays part in it. It's top of the funnel. Some of them converted from bottom of the funnel retargeting. It's mix of different sources, but Reddit played part in it.
That's very interesting. And the parallel here that comes to my brain, which is a channel that I have a lot of love for and spend a lot of time on, is YouTube and scaling YouTube ads. It's a very similar dynamic where the majority of your clicks, or I should say your conversions, are not going to come from YouTube. And with YouTube, the same is true in terms of like the benchmarks of click-through rates are abysmal. And what we have found is with YouTube, a good click-through rate can be around 2% for a good ad. But that still means 98% of the people are not going to click, and they're not going to last touch convert. So that's where like view through conversions are really important. I'm assuming for Reddit, self-reported attribution is also very helpful. So for context, like for us at AdConversion, on the educational side of our business with all the courses and the community, we like Reddit is our third best platform right now. The last I checked. And we know Reddit is working well for us because when people sign up as a student, they mention Reddit on how did you hear about us? And that alone, like having that self-reported attribution gives us all the confidence in the world that we want to continue investing more activities in that platform. So for those of you that are listening and you're not using self-reported, I think that could also be a really helpful, easy unlock to get some attribution around this if you don't have an expensive tool to leverage. All right, Kris, let's move on to the next question here. If you're able to provide this information and like just more details around this, it would be great. If not, we can move on to another one. But how did your CAC or your ROAS compare between Reddit and other channels with different spend levels?
So it was never huge spend from the get-go, so I could start optimizing on a small scale and doubling down on wins. So I wouldn't say that once we start in 10x spend, we see diminishing returns, because it was never from 1x to 10x spend. It was always 1x spend, we see success, let's double down, 2x spend, let's optimize, let's iterate, then 2.5x spend. So I'd say that results are quite linear. The only issue that I would see is if you start increasing spend and you don't have new creatives, because you'll cause ad fatigue, or if you start scaling and you are targeting communities that you maxed out on. So if let's say you have community with 20,000 people and you start doubling or tripling your spend, at some point they will get sick of your ads. So then the only thing you can do is introducing new ads, new messaging, new like content types, etc. But at the end of the day, audience size will be your limitation, especially for some like weird niches like CIOs or CTOs that use Microsoft SQL servers and nothing else. That might be limiting factor for you.
Got it. And what are like so a couple of like two clarifying questions. One is, did you notice, so was it really audience size being the biggest limiter? Did you notice anything in terms of inflection points of scaling? So for context, when you went from 2K to 5K to 10K, and as you ramped it up, did you find a place where it broke, or did performance continue to improve in that linear fashion? So for context, meta ads is often compared to a snow globe, where if you touch it, everything, it shakes and everything just kind of gets out of whack. Did you find Reddit to be something similar like that, or is it much more consistent?
It's much more consistent because you overestimate how good their algo is. Compared to other platforms, their algo is quite clunky. So it more comes down to this creative works. And then you just have to serve people creative that works. It's not about it's not as much reliance on historic data and feeding algo compared to Google Ads, for example.
Okay, good context. All right, final question here on budget and performance, and that is, what are the most common mistakes advertisers make when they are trying to scale Reddit campaigns?
Okay, so there is a few most common mistakes I've seen. So first mistake is doing too much with too little budget, but that's across overall paid media approach. You try to launch 17 new ads in one ad group, and then they start fighting with each other and cannibalizing each other, and none of them gets enough budget to actually learn. The second thing following up on that is not designating enough budget in order to see if something works or not. If you start scaling with Reddit ads, you can start actually putting more money in order to learn faster what works and what doesn't, versus launching 70 new initiatives. Because the way I was able to always achieve steady increase without point of diminishing returns is because I was always iterating and doubling down. So what was happening is I target 3 communities. I have, let's say, 7x pipeline ROI, but I kill the worst performer. And my pipeline ROI increases to 15x. But I test new communities and some of them don't work. So it's pipeline ROI of 8x, 7x. So it's always fluctuation. So it's not steady increase while you increase spend. It's always fluctuating. And then yes, even based on that, I've seen advertisers panicking. Once you see the dip, even though you still have decent results, you're like, okay, I spent $100, $200, it doesn't work, let me kill it. And you kill initiatives too early. Instead of thinking about long-term approach, whether actually it's a learning to know for a fact that this community or this keyword doesn't work. Because at the end of the day, you don't want to be over-reliant on one channel or one keyword or one strategy, because if it stops working, you have nothing else to generate results. So ideally you would like to have multiple different sources of bringing leads, and the same with Reddit, multiple different keywords. But at some point, if you see a dip and you start panicking, even I caught myself doing that a few times. I was like, is it the time to cut losses? Even though it was definitely not time to cut losses. Another thing I see with marketers in general is that there is scaling in terms of ad spend on Reddit without the same level of investment going towards landing pages and creatives. So you might have someone tripling or even 4x ad spend on Reddit while still not having Reddit specific creatives because they don't have resources and they don't want to pay freelancers. And we still run the best performing LinkedIn ads, even though maybe Reddit specific creatives would bring them better results. So it's always healthy balance of let's invest in Reddit while also try to improve landing page or get better creatives. And even if something works for you now, it might not work in 3 to 6 months time. So it's again, iterating, testing.
Yeah, I love that, which is a great segue to the next section of our conversation today, which is all around creative and offers. We have kind of touched on some of these different topics as we've gotten questions from the audience. And if you guys have more questions, we'd love to hear them. So definitely drop them in the chat and we'll make sure to prioritize that. Going on now to creative and offers, what are the creative formats that have worked best for you on Reddit? So is it image? Is it video? Is it text? I know Reddit has a various amount of options available.
In terms of click-through rate, free-form ad, it's something similar to if you advertise on LinkedIn, something similar to thought leader ad. So free-form ad is basically Reddit post, but you can say what you want and it will be shown to your ICPs. It has amazing click-through rate. However, click-through rate is calculated as someone clicked on the ad even to see more of the post, and they don't convert. So I would definitely like drop that unless you want to do some creative awareness play in there. So in terms of creative formats, image ads definitely, video ads yes, and that's the most basic bread and butter. Carousels work amazing, especially for conversation ad placement, because you can get really creative with how do you set up ads and where they direct your traffic. And in terms of so in terms of image ads, before, after, memes, cuts, anything that is outside of the box to grab people's attention, because at the end of the day, people don't come in on Reddit to think about work. The only reason they would think about work when they come to Reddit is to come to subreddit related to the work to complain about it. It's more chill out platform, less professional platform. So if you can just match into the Reddit's culture of memes, fun ads, novelty, humor, something interesting, that definitely works best. However, I also caught myself as a marketer doubling and tripling down on that. And I ended up at some point with having meme ad account because I've seen that memes work. So I started just doubling down on that, more memes, more memes, more memes, chasing good click-through rate and more conversions. But at some point, none of the memes were working anymore, and I was left with nothing. So that's a tale of caution. I currently don't recommend running more than like 30% of the assets being memes. And same like with before, after, or cut ads. Don't over rely on one ad type and throw some other ones to the mix.
Yeah, it's a great point on. It's so easy to fall into the front end trap where you're just optimizing that click-through rate or that front end conversion, and then you don't take a step back and actually see, oh, wait a second, how are they transitioning through our funnel in terms of what that might look like for you? There is one question here that came in from Caroline, just to read it. It's what do you consider as a moderate sized audience, to give a sense of, hey, this audience is too small or this audience is too big?
Thank you for the question, Caroline. Actually, someone else asked me that question by LinkedIn DM a few days ago. To be honest, these numbers are arbitrary. The way I see it currently is anything below like 7 to 10,000 people as a small audience size, 10 to like 50K, it's a moderate size, and anything above like 50K, or like if you have big communities, anything above 100K would be a big audience size. Because when you think about it, with 7,000 audience size and let's say $5 CPM, in an ideal scenario where you can reach everybody with one frequency, you just need $35 a day to reach everybody. So $1,500 a month to reach every single person in a specific community. That's a small audience size. That's the way I think about it.
Love it. So question here, which is related to what we're talking about, from Ria, which is what to do if we are seeing results but low quality leads.
Thank you for the question, Ria. I came across that issue before. So that's why splitting communities, one community per ad group, is important, because usually when you have granular insight, you can start pinpointing what brings you low quality leads. That's how I usually find that one or two communities are the well performing ones and everything else doesn't work well, because I was granularly splitting each keyword per ad group, each community per ad group, and that's the best way to approach it. However, if I jumped into the account and I started seeing low quality leads, I wouldn't have that kind of insight. So I would probably, if I had the data, start from sales calls, start from CRM data to see if there are any indicators letting me see what made them actually convert. And then you can either change your targeting, or there is also a saying that if you have leads but they are low quality, you can increase friction in the lead capturing form and a screening process in order to start decreasing the amount. Because if you see results but you have low quality leads, there is also a question of if you get some high quality leads to still make you have positive ROAS. Because if so, that's the part of the game. Some of the leads you'll get from Reddit will be bots. Some of the leads you're getting from Reddit will be low quality. But at the end of the day, if the high quality leads make you have a still positive ROAS, it is a problem, but I'd say it's not as big problem as if you get all low quality leads or you have negative ROAS, because that's another issue to tackle by changing offer, messaging, targeting, etc.
I kind of think of it as just the cost of doing business. It's the cost of doing business on Reddit. Which is kind of something we alluded to earlier, is when you get outside of LinkedIn, you kind of have to accept, and especially when you go after cold traffic, you're going to have to accept that you're not going to always get, 100% of the leads that come in are going to be a perfect fit. And you're going to have to start to see things in terms of percentages versus absolutes. So for context, if 60% of the leads that you have coming in from Reddit are good, and good being relative to what you define as good, then that's a huge win. Because if you factor in the cost per clicks on Reddit, the distribution cost, etc., like the actual cost per MQL, op, etc., could be substantially lower than some other platforms like LinkedIn. We got a follow-up question here for you, Kris, from Parul on the creative stuff you were talking about earlier. So I'll bring it up here on the screen. Parul asks, when you suggest memes, does it mean that memes should lead to a contextual landing page? I'm not sure how much sense it would make to land a meme to a website homepage.
Thank you for the question, Parul. Before we jump into it, just a quick PSA for everybody. As majority of the website traffic from Reddit is mobile, please make sure that your website is mobile friendly. And now jumping to your question, Parul. Actually, I tried in the past, maybe not necessarily to the homepage as a landing page, but to the feature page or even book a demo page, the traffic being directed from the meme ads, and I've seen it work. At the end of the day, meme is there to relate to the Reddit ads audience, speaking in Reddit language and grab their attention. So I can have before versus after image ad for my software, with headlines saying struggling with XYZ, we can help you. And then when you have landing page, whatever the landing page is still quite relevant to the ad, because you have before versus after, sad cut, happy cut, and you have ad copy that relates to what actually the landing page is about. Another example would be directing people to homepage as a landing page, but if you use cut, it's not purely cut. Even if you were using funny cut as an image, there is still some ad copy that you can utilize to make it clear that this is how we can help you. Because it's not about grabbing their attention, it's also making that connection between problem versus problem as solution. The product choice as we will help you. So memes are just to make it more appealing to Reddit users, because it's Reddit at the end of the day, grabbing their attentions, and you can get much more creative with ads that you are serving.
I want to double click on that, because I see the same mistake on LinkedIn when people use memes or on Meta, and they lean too hard on the meme that they forget the bridge. And to echo the point, Kris, you have to draw the bridge. You have to draw the line from the problem and the solution, because if you're just focusing on memes and you forget that, it's so easy and it's so common where there's a huge mismatch, which I think is what kind of you're alluding to here, right? Where they clicked on your ad, they laughed, but they don't really understand what it was about in the first place, let alone, what it is you have installed for them. We have a few questions flowing in, so let's move on to Travin's question. Travin asks, how has the quality of your traffic been on Reddit, subreddit targeting, worldwide, segmented by geo regions? So Travin, I think the question behind the question is, what's the traffic quality been like, and how are you thinking about the segmentation of that traffic?
I've seen somewhere data stating that around 25% of the Reddit traffic are bots. From my experience, it's anything between 25 to 50%. Again, that's just part of the game. There is nothing we can do about it. And when I spoke with Reddit ads reps about it, they just told me to exclude that segment from my Google Analytics. So even they understand that that's the part of the game. Now, in terms of general quality of traffic, it all comes down to how relevant is your ad and product to the subreddit that you are targeting. That's why it's also important to not do interest targeting, because then you are serving ads to many different random subreddits. So even if someone clicks, you'll consider that low quality because they might be job seeker, unemployed, and student. And yes, I see you also touched segmented by geo regions. If you run ads in general, you know that there are some countries and regions that will just cannibalize and eat up the vast majority of the budget. So yes, if you target multiple different continents or regions, it's worth to look out for it, because you'll find that there are some regions that are way cheaper and they cannibalize the budget, but also you might find that these regions don't bring you actual conversions, and then you can start excluding them. I guess that's pretty much it.
Nice. Hope that answers the question, Travin. The next question here is from Ria. She is asking, is Reddit useful for sales-led enterprise companies? Can you share any case studies? I think you might have missed the beginning part of the show. So Cognism, where Kris was working, was sales-led enterprise focused, and that's where he was able to scale to 6 figures. But yeah, if you want to touch on that briefly, Kris.
Yep. Unless she was talking about sales-led but headcount 10K plus. I definitely have seen LinkedIn advertising on Reddit. Crazy. I definitely have seen Intel advertising on Reddit. And those are just like two from the top of my head. So enterprise companies advertise on Reddit. I advertised for enterprise companies for SLG company. So from the top of my head, yes, Cognizant is a perfect example. It is useful. I would be more concerned about whether your ICP is in there. So yes, if you have communities that are relevant, or where your ICP will be hanging out, because if so, that's a green light for you to start running Reddit ads.
Nice. And Travin had a follow-up point here where he said, I've tried to limit by devices, only desktop as a start. Have you tried anything around that? I know you mentioned, Kris, that the majority of the traffic comes from mobile. So have you tried to get around that with device targeting? Or did you just how'd you approach it?
So if you limit by devices, then the issue will be that, usually you would do it probably by operation systems. If you approach it by targeting by devices, the issue will be that mobile is the vast contributor towards your website traffic. So if you exclude it, what will happen is you'll have massive shrink in audience size. But the other thing I would recommend you to do is to be really thoughtful about feed placement for specific ad types. So if you are running image or video ads for community targeting, I would recommend you using only feed placement. However, for keyword targeting, I would recommend you running only conversation placement. I found that there's like 6 to 8x difference in cost per lead if you do it that way. So that's the way I would approach it, but I would definitely not be running only desktop, because mobile is the best contributor. If you have issues with quality, what you could consider is something with landing page. So either doing the extra barrier in the lead capture form, or CAPTCHA if you are worried about bots. So that would be the first two approaches I would think, if mobile devices are something that you found low quality from.
Nice. Okay, next question here from Godar is, when mobile traffic on Google search doesn't convert at the end of the funnel, does it make sense to advertise on Reddit?
I would definitely recommend testing it out. And I know what you mean, because I also found for some of my clients that mobile traffic on Google doesn't convert even to MQLs, or the cost per MQL is way higher compared to desktop devices, which kind of makes sense because if you are on desktop, it's more likely that you are at work right now searching for the solution. It makes sense to advertise on Reddit, but when you think about it, these are two different kind of beasts. The way you think about Google search is it's capturing the demand. With Reddit, you can also do the create the demand, because it's a paid social platform where people hang out, even if they are not in the market to buy your solution. You can use it for capturing the demand with yes conversion objective, with retargeting, with keyword targeting, because you can also do Reddit ads for keyword targeting. And I would definitely recommend testing it out, because I've seen, even for some of my clients, mobile traffic doesn't work on Google search, and yet Reddit ads, which have majority of mobile traffic, brings them conversions.
That's a really interesting insight. So I wanted to get your take, Kris, at the top of the hour here on the future of Reddit as a B2B channel. Is it underrated, overhyped? What is your take?
Based on my conversations with Reddit employees, they try to make it more appealing to B2B advertisers in general, to the point where they introduce B2B specific features, or like when you even think about it, why would you integrate with metadata? They want to be appealing to B2B advertisers. The improvement in and volume of features they introduced over the last 2 years is crazy. So I see definitely Reddit becoming better and better platform, advertisers friendly in general. In terms of B2B, it's definitely underutilized, which means that there is not much competition. So you can definitely stand out and get your ROI. I wouldn't be surprised if later down the line, 5, 10, 15 years, it got more expensive because there is much more competition. But as of now, as of 1-2 years ago, distribution cost is way lower, and I see more and more B2B advertisers running ads and continuing running ads. So I believe it's still profitable for them, making it really appealing platform. And I don't think it will change in the upcoming year or two. Even like they have now the whole arm of like growth team on Reddit that is responsible for targeting to SMBs. They are in touch with SaaS companies. They introduce even Reddit organic features because they want to bring Reddit, they want to promote B2B conversations and customer support conversations happening on Reddit. They have even competitive intel right now, way better than what LinkedIn can provide, of where your competitors are advertising, who's talking about your competitors, who's talking about your brand. All of that is made in order to make it appealing to us.
That's awesome. We're at the top of the hour here, and I want to make sure that everyone here on the live stream is made aware that we have courses on Reddit ads taught by Kris. So if you guys want to dive deeper on Reddit ads, I've got it here on my screen. Come visit us at adconversion.com/courses, and you can take our 3 Reddit ads courses taught by Kris. It took how long, Kris, for us to make these courses?
Probably at 8 months of writing scripts, then 3 days of recording all day in studio, and then probably like another 10 months or so of post-production.
It took a lot of work, and we, like all of our courses here at AdConversion, we don't charge for them. We give them for free because ultimately, like, we want to create the place where people can go to learn how to run ads from start to finish. So definitely you guys can check out these 3 courses. Our 101 course is where I recommend that you start. This is for beginners. This will teach you the A to Z of getting started. Our 102 course will teach you all about optimization once your campaigns are live. Our 103 course will teach you everything you need to know about scaling and like Kris's personal experiences. So these 3 courses it is the go-to resource, because there is no resource right now for Reddit outside of this that we can see. So definitely, guys, if you want to dive deeper, check this out. And then also, if you want our playbook on Reddit ads, come visit us here in the AdConversion community. So this is a private community where we have different performance marketers, B2B advertisers, in-house marketers, agency owners, consultants. And in the community, we have a whole bunch of playbooks, templates. We've got workshop replays. So if you guys want the recording of today's AMA, it'll be inside of the workshop replay. We also do weekly coaching calls in the community as well. So if you have questions, you can get feedback. And here in the community, we actually have a really cool playbook written by Kris on audience research, where he really distills down how to do audience research on finding your people on Reddit. So definitely come check us out in the community. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. And if you guys have any questions for Kris, please, I recommend that you reach out to him, connect with him on LinkedIn. And again, if you guys take the courses and you find value in it, please send Kris a DM saying what you experienced. And if you can help us spread the word on AdConversion by leaving us a testimonial, we'll greatly appreciate it. Thanks so much, guys. And have a good rest of your day. And I'll see you in the next one.